Hi there, I'm Richard Hill, the host of eComOne. Welcome to our 102nd episode. In this episode, I speak with Tal Rotman, VP of Global Partnerships at Namogoo. Discounts, a bit of a dirty word in any space and something that is just too easy and far too simple to offer without any real strategy behind it. In this episode, myself and Tal look at using the customer's journey, gathering data along the way to give customers a unique experience when it comes to promotions and personalisation. In this episode, we talk all things discounts. Can offering discounts ever be a wrong decision for a business? How can we use buying intent to offer a unique personalisation? Is there a sweet spot when it comes to discounts? And we delve into some of the tech that's coming down the line when it comes to discounting and personalisation. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast so you're always the first to know when a new episode is released. Now, let's head over to this fantastic episode. This episode is brought to you by eComOne, e-commerce marketing agency. eComOne works purely with e-commerce stores, scaling their Google Shopping, SEO, Google Search and Facebook ads through a proven performance-driven approach. Go to ecomone.com/resources for a host of amazing resources to grow your paid and organic channels. Hi, and welcome to another episode of eComOne. Today's guest, Tal Rotman, VP of Global Partnerships at Namogoo. How are you doing, Tal?
Hey, Richard. How are you doing? Thanks for the time.
No problem at all. Looking forward to this one. It's I think almost a dirty word that we're going to start with in e-commerce. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? Discounts, an episode where we're going to talk a lot about discounts. I think this is something that, there's not many e-com stores, well, there isn't any, I don't think, that won't have offered some sort of discount. And obviously there's a whole gamut of things to talk about, when, why, what, and there's so many different elements to it. So I think it would be good for you to kick off with sort of, discount, offering these discounts. I think quite often can be quite harmful. Would be my sort of take on it potentially. When to offer them. But what would you say? When should a brand look at offering discounts? Should they offer discounts?
Look, I think the obvious answer. So, Richard, it is a fascinating topic. There's a lot of both academic research and a lot of emotional responses to that particular question, especially in 2022 after the last couple of years. I think the obvious answer is it depends, right? I mean, we all know that there's never really a wrong time to it's never a wrong decision to offer a discount. But I think that what we're seeing a lot is that a lot of retailers are really feeling it, right? They're feeling the experience of offering discounts because they think that that's the right thing to do. There's maybe a little bit of a follow me or copycat behavior, yep. Right? And so people start to get sucked into this vicious cycle, yeah. Right? Yeah. And I think, and what I'm finding fascinating, just looking back almost exactly 2 years ago, right? As we were talking about, yeah. That we went into this, brands that started off 2 years ago as pretty high end are now actually considered discount brands, and company, and customers are expecting to see that discount, right? And I think they're just so used to, getting to that homepage, that landing page, and going splat, 20% off. Yeah. Right. So I think that's probably the emotional response that a lot of people have. Right? It's, these discounts are killing our margins, or we don't know what to do. There's a lot of emotion, but actually discounts can be a very effective incentive. We all know that. Yeah. I think that's sort of a love-hate thing, isn't it, ultimately, because it's expected. I think it's as simple as that. But I think, there's some very crude, there's doing it and then doing it well and doing it really, really well, which is what we're going to, ultimately talk about. But, if we're literally, every single visitor is getting treated the same and every single visitor is getting 10% or whatever that magic number may be. I think what we're alluding to is that's not the smart way to do it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah.
So what would you say around, what would be the maybe 60-second version of, using different intent, different segment to offer different things at different times?
Look, I think that the first thing is that we need to understand that a lot of retailers there's an addiction at this point, right? It really is. It's a vicious cycle, and it's a form of addiction. And it feeds itself, right? The retailers are following everybody else, right? And you ask them, why did you put 20%? And they say, well, I don't know. And that's what everybody else is doing, right? And then it just gets worse and worse, and the customers will now expect it, and so it kind of just feeds itself. And there's this kind of addictive behavior. And what you really need to do is you need to rehabilitate it. I think that's what a lot of companies are looking at now, how to mitigate this impact by rehabilitating from this kind of form of discount addiction. And so the way to do it is in a gradual, stepwise, right? You need to have the visitors understand that they're not always going to get a discount. That's the first thing, right? And the right time to do that is when you know that they're going to purchase, right? When they walk into a brick and mortar shop, and they know exactly which pair of jeans they're going to buy. You don't want yeah, exactly. You don't want your clerk to say, "Oh, here you go. Here's a coupon," right? As they're walking to the, putting their credit card details in. Exactly.
It's funny. I actually went into a store on Saturday, and I used to go in there a lot, where the office used to be. Mm-hmm. I always used to get a discount, just because I knew the guy, or I only knew him from going in there. And I haven't been in there for probably 18 months. And I bought a new shirt, bought a new jumper, and it was about £200, I think. And I don't know what happened, because normally I will always ask for a discount. If I'm honest, I am that guy. I am that guy. I've got my father in my ear. I've been brought up, like that. And it doesn't matter. My kids, my wife are like, hang their head in shame when they go shopping with me, because even now,
that's the way to do it. Absolutely, I'm there too.
I can't buy anything full price. It's just who I am. And I went in there, and because they've always offered they've always given me a discount. I actually forgot to ask for the discount. I got out of the shop and I was like, oh man, I completely forgot, because it sort of, I expected it, but he didn't add it. I got the receipt. I was like, oh crap, I wasn't even thinking. I'd have got 20, 30, 40 pounds knocked off, but I didn't go back in, obviously, and say anything. But
Sure.
That expectation for me is just there, that's in a shop, but also, online. Yeah.
And it's a great analogy, because you had the intent to purchase, right? You knew you were going to buy, and you still had this kind of thing on your shoulder that said, I'm always expecting a discount. But in that moment, you had intent to purchase, you didn't get offered the discount, and you still converted, right? And that's exactly.
He didn't offer it. He probably remembered me from a couple of years ago and thought, oh, maybe give this guy. But then he obviously,
let's see what happens, right?
See what I would say, and I didn't say anything.
Let's see. And if you start to show indicators that says, you know what, maybe he's gonna churn, he's gonna walk out, then maybe that's the moment to hit him with the discount. And that, in a nutshell, is what Namogoo intent-based promotion does, right? That's actually what we're using. We're focusing on the intent of the visitor when they hit the shop, and saying, okay, look, this visitor needs a different incentive as opposed to a visitor when he comes to the shop at the same exact time. And it might be that same person returns the next day, and they exhibit different behaviors, right? And there's nothing untoward about this. We're just providing the right incentive at the right time, right?
Give me an example then, exactly. So you're a merchant, you've implemented Namogoo. What are some of the, I guess, playbooks of discount? Obviously, discounts is just one thing that you do, but what would be some of the playbooks and instances for a store doing apparel, £10 million or $20 million US. I know the conversion rate's slightly off there, but 10, 20 mil turnover, a lot of orders pumping through the system. What would be some of the playbooks that Namogoo would be able to help our listeners with?
So what we can do is we can help actually take that generic, one size fits all site-wide campaign and say, you know what, let's let the machine learning actually decide what is the right decision for that visitor at that time. So we can run a campaign, and we can focus on particular groups. We can say, you know what, traffic from Instagram, let's run it on that traffic, or let's, something that came in from Facebook, let's run on that, or we can do it across the board in parallel too, right? And we can say, let's take those visitors and let the ML decide, the machine learning decide what is the right incentive. So as they go through the shopping journey, maybe we're not going to do the splat 20% on the landing page. We're going to wait a little bit further when they go and they look at some jeans, and then we say, okay, they're exhibiting some behaviors. They're coming in from a specific channel. There's a lot of different data points that we're gathering that are, by the way, not PII, not GDPR issue.
Just
right?
that when you're saying different data sources, so you're coming from paid ads, you're coming from search, you're coming from whether that's Google, Facebook. Obviously, it's going to be a definite element of intent, very different intents from different
100%. And
through
and in each sub vertical, and we have a wide variety of customers in different sub verticals, and each sub vertical has similar behaviors as well in conjunction with all those data points. And what I'm saying here is we've got more than 200 different data points, and we let the machine learning decide. This is not a human, making decisions. This is based on learning the behaviors of the visitors on that site during that day, during that month, and so on, right? This is technology that exists, by the way. This is not something that we're going to sell to Amazon, right? Amazon has, thousands of machine learning folks who can do this. This is us, and I don't want to sound like Robin Hood here, but this is democratizing that technology for companies that are making $5, $10, $20 million per annum, right? That's what we're doing. We're breaking that technology out of the big boys and bringing it to people who actually need this and try to find a way to rehabilitate.
I think, listeners, when you think about the, different people coming to your store, you've got people that, they're there, they want it now, and they maybe want a little cheeky discount, very likely. But then a lot of people are coming to your store and they don't want to buy that thing right now. So offering them a discount right now or an aggressive discount now is not going to work in reality, because they're thinking, so that obviously, it will vary from price point, industry to industry, but ultimately, if you're getting a discount right now for something that, if it was for a wedding, for example, you're not just going to go to a website and buy, a wedding suit, for example. I don't think, but over the course of the weeks and months, so the potential to obviously vary that based on product, but also ask that question in that form, when are you looking to purchase? Potentially. So if they're looking to purchase in 2-3 weeks, then obviously the system then would know potentially, or whether you're using your system or another, to offer a discount at the time of potential purchase.
The other interesting thing is, to your point, right? Sometimes when people see that discount, they think, oh, wait a second, I got a discount here. Where else can I get a discount, right? You're stimulating them and pushing them out, right? So you need to really hit them at the right time. And by the way, sometimes that massive discount isn't necessarily what you need, right? You could a 5% discount might be just as much of incentive as a 20% discount, right? As they're going through the journey, or free shipping, when they're in the cart, right, might be the right thing. And that's what we're actually doing. We're finding the right incentive at the right time in the journey, and we're letting the machine learning actually decide that across many different experience,
right? Rather than just blanket all discount.
Exactly. It's conformity, right? We don't want a conformity of the discounting. We want the discounting to be individualized to that particular journey.
So it's fascinating, but I would love to know how you got into this game. I think I'm always really, really fascinated with every guest, and all the different stories of coming into commerce. Yeah. Usually it's by chance or by a chance meeting with somebody, or, trying something. How did you get into the industry?
So I most of my career I was in telco, both on the vendor side and consulting, and a little bit of security, but always in the telco space. And both through friends, I connected with our CEO, Chemi, and the story was just so exciting. A really, really interesting technology. The domain itself is so vibrant and growing. And what I love about it is, the amount of mom and pop shops that there are out there, right? I mean, there are amazing large retailers, and we work with, some of the biggest, Marks and Spencer's, for example. We just, put out a great case study in the UK. So we've got those big enterprises, but I love this, massive ecosystem of people who said, you know what, I'm going to give it a go, right? And it's really, really interesting to see that. For me, that's really, really exciting, and leads to a lot of innovation.
To be fair, they're the episodes I enjoy the most. No disrespect, but when we get people on that go, 8 years ago, we were offered, half a dozen X, sunglasses, and I put them on eBay, and I went to bed and woke up and we'd sold them all, and we made like £100. So I bought another 100, and then the year later we got a little unit. We did it from the garage, and then we moved from the bedroom to the garage to the unit to the big unit, and then now they're doing like £50 million a year. Got 40 staff, 20,000 square feet.
I absolutely love those stories.
Those journeys. We've had a lot of people. They are just Yeah, and they're just so relatable ultimately, because that's nearly every business on the planet,
Yeah.
ish, not quite,
Yeah.
but
And on the
especially.
flip side, there's that, right? And on the other side, there's the innovation, right? Like there's so many interesting technologies and how they work together and constantly coming up with new ways to
Yeah,
improve the experience. And so that's really exciting for me as well, right? And in my role, particularly, in the world of partnerships, is really about establishing those connections, building relationships,
yeah,
and finding ways to the overused 1+1 = 3, right?
yeah.
Trying to find ways to create additional value for our end customers. And I love that. I find that really exciting. It gets my creative juices flowing.
Yeah, same, very much so. That's one of the reasons we do the podcast. That sort of people we meet and the things that come from that. But so obviously a lot of clients, a lot of customers, in the thousands of customers.
That's right.
And I think a lot of people must come to you, with discounts in place, and maybe they've been doing it, the whole, we've been doing it this way for so long, this is how we do it type scenario or mentality. How can companies get out of this, pretty almost crude cycle of just discount 5%, that's what we do. What's the sort of process of going, right, we need to change that? How are we going to then adapt a methodology like you're talking about?
Yeah.
What would be the process? Because obviously we've got customers that have maybe been buying off us for years that just know they're going to get 5% off.
Yeah.
What would be a sort of a roadmap for these e-com stores to sort of integrate something new?
So first of all, obviously, Namogoo TM, right? This is what we do. And really, you could try to figure it out yourself, right? Do a lot of maybe some kind of A/B testing, but in this particular domain, if you're a $5 to $10 million company, you need a lot of volume of traffic in order to get some kind of statistically significant result. You could try 5%, but was it the 5% or was it the seasonality, right? It becomes a very difficult thing to try to figure out, right? And do you really want to reduce your discount? Because maybe that discount, reducing it actually will impact your sales, and you never want to do that. So this is why we suggest, look, we've got a very simple plugin, depending on which platform you're on, Magento, Shopify, whatever, install it and run a campaign, right? Yeah. Work with us, run one campaign, maybe even do it in parallel, right? In side by side, take 50% or some of your traffic and run a machine learning based campaign and say, okay, let's see what that does. And then, okay, let's tweak it a little bit. Let's try to do BOGO or let's try to do free shipping. Or let's try to run one discount level, give Namogoo a discount level of 5 to 20% on clearance items, right? And on the luxury items, no discount, right? Try different campaigns to see what runs, but let the machine learning determine which visitor is actually going to be the right one to give those discounts to. Yeah. And visitors will start to get less discounts. So they start to, feel that they're getting them at the right time as well.
Yeah, I think that's the key, isn't it? Ultimately, the machine learning will kick in and offer things at the right time, as opposed to that blanket piece. So I think the message there is, you can trial, you can test for a month or so, and obviously ultimately the returns will be there, or they'll vary depending on who's listening and what business you've got. But ultimately, if you do a blanket discount permanently, there's options there to trial, Namogoo, etc. So do you see very specific patterns with obviously different industries, different things are maybe expected more so. You've got fashion, which is, we've got a lot of listeners in fashion and apparel. We've got a lot of listeners in jewelry and that type of thing. We've got a lot of listeners with sort of outdoor seating, barbecues, maybe more physically bigger products. Mm-hmm. We've got a lot of people with, white glove furniture, $2, $3, $4, $5 expensive.
Higher order value.
Bigger, we've got, a whole mix is out there. I know obviously we have a whole mix of listeners, but jewelry, apparel are big verticals for our listeners. I know they are. Is there any sort of sweet spot discounts that you see in any particular industries?
It's a great question. Like a lot of folks will say, if we just follow what all the other folks in their sub-vertical are doing, then we should be fine, right? Like if all the big players in jewelry are doing 20%, then we should do 20%, right? That's where you get that copycat behavior. And of course, then they try to outdo each other, right? Oh, they're doing 20%. Maybe if I do 5%, then I'll get more of that, more of that share. And I think that so there is a lot of that. In terms of the sweet spot of the verticals or the sub verticals, look, it really, that's the exciting part of this technology, right? We have many customers in these sub verticals, right? And it's leveraging that network effect, right? We're not taking any data from each of the customers, but we're seeing what are the behaviors for this kind of sub vertical, different geographies and so on. And of course, this is all automated, right? It's happening behind the scenes, right? And that's actually what's exciting, right? So you can let the machine learning use those learnings and those findings from those sub verticals and find what is the sweet spot at that time in that month with seasonality, all in an automated way. There isn't a sweet spot for the technology for Namogoo, right? We have customers who are doing very high order value, customers who are doing high volume, low, right? Really across the board, and the reason is because we've got this network effect, right? We've got a lot of customers across the board in all those different geographies and sub verticals, and the technology knows what to do for those particular verticals.
So it's vertical specific, but it's all back to the machine learning at the end of the day.
Yes, exactly.
I expect to say, I was a bit of a, see if we can catch you out there, but we didn't.
Okay. I'm used to it.
Yeah. So back to the machine learning, ultimately there is no one size fits all, no matter what industry you're in.
That's you hit the nail on the head. That's the point, right? There really isn't a one size fits all, right? I mean, there might be certain types of, products that, like, for example, this might not be the best solution for a B2B. Right. If you're selling, very low volume, but very high order value, where you're selling one product, 10,000 orders, this isn't what's going to work. But we always knew that in the first place. You weren't going to put a discount code on a B2B, site that if you're going to go and order 10,000, mail, right? You're not going to get a discount code, right? So that's really, it's common sense. Where you would expect to see a discount, this is relevant and works.
Yeah. I think you've also mentioned, which is part of the machine learning, but that seasonality piece. Obviously, every industry, pretty much, it's probably a bit of a caveat there, the odd one, but we deal with there's not a month goes by where we haven't got clients that are at peak potentially. Obviously we've got Mother's Day coming up I don't know if it's the same date in the US or the UK or not, but that's coming up. Is it next? Well, we probably need to get this right. I think it's different, by the way. It's this weekend, for us. And then we've just had Valentine's, a month ago, obviously Christmas, but then there's obviously, weather dependent, the weather's turning here. It's now spring is eking its way out, and it's the best time of year. I love it. I've been searching for barbecues. It's finally time after switching that thing on for the last 12 years. I chucked it in a skip actually about 3 weeks ago. So there's no excuse. I have to buy one. It's as simple as that. But in terms of like,
can't wait for Black Friday now. You have to get it.
I know it's happening. I've already eyed up a pizza oven, barbecue, fridge, beer pump. It's all happening.
I'm in. When do I get the invite?
That's the plan. Yeah, I'll let you know. So that seasonality element, and what do you say about that specifically?
And geography too, right? The seasonality plays with geography, especially for companies that are trying to be, international, right? They might be headquartered in the UK, but they have customers in Spain and France, and seasonality is different there, right? So 100%.
Yeah, it's definitely there, isn't it? Okay, so obviously you've worked with a lot of brands. We've said this already. Is there any particular brands that just are getting it so wrong with the discounts? I mean, it's a bit of a tough question because I don't really want you to call out, but I do want
throw anybody under the bus, eh?
Maybe just doing it wrong, and they're probably doing the things that we're talking about, just that consistent same old discount at the wrong time, no thought to any sort of AI stroke, thinking, any layering, any tech in there whatsoever. Any brands particularly, like maybe some big brands that seriously leaving.
You really are setting me up, huh?
Yeah, I'm waiting. Go.
Yeah. Look,
this bit out as the sound clip for the episode.
That's right. Tal Rotman says that is doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not falling into that trap. I don't think that there are any brands that are doing it wrong. They're all just trying.
Too diplomatic.
Right? They're all just trying. Yeah, absolutely. But I think that some of them got stuck, right? Some of them got stuck in a pretty bad loop. And I mentioned earlier, I'll step in a little bit. I mentioned earlier, brands that were high end and then got sucked down, right? And we're seeing, for example, the Gap, right, is struggling big time, especially in the UK. We know that they're closing a lot of their shops, right? Think about Banana Republic. I moved to the US, 10 years ago. Banana Republic was, top brand, very high end, part of the Gap group. And over the last, pandemic period, we see that they are really experiencing this kind of like discounting behavior. People are expecting very high discounts, and I've seen 40% and that sort of thing on a brand that's just touching the bottom of kind of almost semi-luxury sort of top end professional clothing, so or apparel. So I'm not saying that they're doing it wrong, but I'm saying that was the behavior that we saw that kind of led us to this situation. And a lot of different brands that struggled with it, and I don't think they had anything else that they could do. Right, they just were trying to keep it going, and in particular with the struggles that they've had in brick and mortar, they're doing whatever they can to try to help buffet up the bottom line overall, right?
So if you're a big brand and you're doing big permanent discounts, Tal's going to save you a fortune and make you look like a golden boy, basically.
I'm here for you.
Okay, discounts. I think we've done quite a bit on discounts, and forever they remain, so we can all get a bit of discount. But as a merchant, obviously, ultimately, we want to be giving them at the right price and not just hemorrhaging money, hemorrhaging our margin. Ultimately, obviously, everyone mostly are working on quite tight margins. The difference between a 5% and 10% can be profitable, profit or no profit. In reality, you scale that back, throw in returns, etc., etc. It's a huge difference, and obviously that's what we're trying to do. Everything we talk about on the podcast, if you're an e-com store, 1000% you should be running Google Shopping, but it doesn't mean you just take a feed, push it in, and you have to do the same as everybody else, which is what we're saying with the 5%, 10% flat rate. What you've got to layer in, is the automations. You've got to layer in seasonality. You've got to pull in the weather, maybe this is on Google Ads. But this is what we're talking about here. Very much we're layering in, a technology piece. And understanding that business, the vertical within that business, the vertical that business is in, using data from a lot of other merchants potentially. Brilliant. So, okay, I'm convinced, but now with maybe, as a potential customer or an existing customer that's already bought something, they're now in the system, they've registered for XYZ, or they've been offered XYZ at that point, or at the right point when the intent matches better, a bespoke discount. We've got them in the system. What other things can we be doing to, via maybe email, SMS, to entice them to maybe come back, obviously if they've already bought, or to obviously get them back, not just with the discount, but with other things. Remember to talk about that for a bit.
Absolutely. So, we talk about intent a lot, right? The machine learning is actually devising an intent scoring, right? It's telling you what is the intent of that visitor to purchase, to abandon, right? You can, and I keep on saying machine learning there, but it is, that what you're trying to do is you're trying to ensure that the customer has a good experience. We can do the same thing both in the journey, and you can do that offline as well, right? Instead of hitting them up, afterwards saying, don't forget us, we love you, right? Sign up and all that good stuff. That if you know that visitor had high intent to purchase, but didn't, right? And maybe a certain something might actually get them over the edge. You can continue to follow them in a respectful way, right? In other channels, right? Try to create a continuity to that experience instead of just hitting them up with straight, kind of simple, generic and conforming experiences. And so, yes, we can integrate that intent scoring, and even some of the underlying data points for that scoring into other channels, be it an email, or an SMS, whatever your marketing automation is. But you could also do the same thing via a remarketing campaign, right? We can push that push those visitors and say, you know what, those visitors, we think if we give them a certain kind of incentive on if they, when they watch, they're on Facebook and they get hit up with an ad unit, maybe you want to, focus on that, right? Focus on these high intent visitors, right? And so we can take that scoring and that capability in a really, really easy way. It doesn't, it doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need, a team of folks to actually get this implemented. And you can keep that experience kind of, as we like to say, the digital journey continuity platform, right? And so it's actually a continuous journey, and trying to create some loyalty to that brand as well, some consistency to the experience.
Yeah, love it. So we're layering in a multitude of new touch points, whether that's SMS. I think it surprises me how many brands, merchants are just not using SMS. It really does. How many times have you had an SMS from a brand that you like? I would imagine most people not, and you're probably not doing it either, listeners. So I think, how many times, if you get a text message, do you open it? Every time is the reality, pretty much.
Yeah.
Email,
absolutely. The ROI on SMS is emails ROI is incredible, right? But the ROI on SMS is even more significant.
Yeah, you just need to get more mobile numbers is the trick, But obviously, so we've got SMS, we've got email, we're layering remarketing. Have you got any sort of, I think it all sounds lovely and nice, but ultimately, maybe step us through, an actual project or two where you've layered in, all the way through from the discount piece to then layering in, the different touch points all the way through that cycle. And then maybe that's improved. Well, it should have improved results. Give us a couple of examples.
Richard, it's a great question. So we've got a great customer out of Australia, company called GetWag. Love them as a owner of a pandemic puppy. I'm
you and half my team, I think.
There you go. So GetWag were one of our earliest customers, and actually what they do is they sell high quality product that's healthy, that's additive free for the dogs. And they've got a club, and what they're trying to do is improve sign up for their loyalty program. They use segmentation, and they're pretty advanced. They use SMS and email. What we actually delivered for them was our core solution, intent-based promotions, and the ability to leverage the machine learning was really what caught her eye with Rama. Now, actually, what she did was she just ran it across the site, right? She just deployed, and it's a simple Shopify plugin, right? She could install it herself. Obviously we've got folks to help if necessary, but oftentimes it's not. And just ran a simple campaign. Now we've got a really nice studio for running those campaigns, right? And you can say, okay, what is it that you want to focus on this campaign? Do you want to increase conversion rate? Do you want to improve your average order value? What are the different, KPIs that you're focusing on? Focus on that. What is the segment that you want to focus on for this campaign? In her case, the first campaign was everybody. I want this to run for all of my customers. Later on, she was like, okay, let's take a look at just the customers that are coming in from our Instagram feed and give them a dedicated campaign, right? And then you can set up the graphics, the image, right, for that coupon. Right, make sure that it's on brand, that it's matching, the look and feel of your site. We've got our homegrown, pop-ups and that sort of thing. But if you want to, put in your own branding and image, of course, you can do that. And then, what she did was she set up, a range, right? Between 5 and 20%. I want to give the visitors between 5 and 20%. I don't want it to go up to 40, right? I don't want it, right? I want it to go somewhere between 5 and 20%, or no discount, right? Or no discount, right? And so that's what she did. She ran that campaign for 2-3 weeks, right? And the first couple of days, the machine learning is, getting to know the site, learning the behaviors and patterns of visitors on the site. And after a number of days, we started to see things really bump, right? We saw the amount of conversions definitely go up. But that is kind of obviously very interesting. We certainly want to see that. But that's actually kind of a secondary effect, because if you think about it, like even if the imagery is, really not effective and that sort of thing. But if you can actually reduce the amount of discount on average that you're giving, you've improved your margin, right? There's a significant return on investment just by reducing the discount, and that's what she saw. Yeah. So actually, Rama actually saw a 10% increase in AOV in that first campaign, wow, and a 30% increase in revenue.
Wow.
Really, really significant results. And then, and after that, we started working on, okay, let's take those visitors, and you know what, if they didn't convert, let's actually integrate that into the pretty advanced email marketing suite that she had built in. And we just can push those segments into that email marketing suite. If you don't have an email marketing suite, or you're still trying to figure out what to do with SMS, we've got something built in that you can work with.
Yeah.
That we actually can offer, that's already doesn't require any integration. But if you've got something in place, we can plug into all of those different email.
You've got both options there.
Use
one of the.
Okay,
that's brilliant. That's great, isn't it? I think there's nothing like a sort of real life case study to just really get a feel for, things out in the wild. Because obviously we can get a lot of theory potentially on the podcast, which I'm not keen on.
Absolutely.
Obviously our guys very much, they're in the trenches. They want to be in the right direction. And I think obviously looking at what you guys are doing, clearly doing some great stuff. You've grown massively, haven't you, in the last year or two? So
absolutely.
Okay. I always like to, well, not always, but sometimes, crystal ball. We're sat here in a year's time. We're still talking about discounts. Well, everybody will be using some system by then, potentially. Hopefully yours, I'm guessing.
No doubt.
But what else do you think? We've talked very much about AI and machine learning, and I think that, obviously put words in your mouth, but, what would you say 12 months time, 18 months time, what's going to be the things around discounts that we'll be focusing on?
I think that what we're going to find is, today what Namogoo is doing is taking in all these data points, right? That are factors in and Namogoo's machine learning deciding what's the right decision. I think that as we progress, we're going to want to break down those different data points and say, you know what, I want to actually get more granular. Right? Instead of letting Namogoo's machine learning make a decision, which is interesting, we'll continue using that. Let's try to refine that and say, okay, let's go after 1 or 2 or 3 different data points and try to work with those, right? And then and try to create some segments and that sort of thing. And those underlying data points can be really, really interesting and valuable. Be it the network strength of a particular device, or what the weather is you talked about, or whether that particular visitor has a high CPU. All these different things are really, really interesting. And again, not personally identifiable, but really interesting about the journey. And these are all different factors that kind of feed Namogoo's decisioning on intent. But actually, if you can take those underlying data points and leverage them to try some different experiments, I think that's where things are going to go to, right? That's for me what's really exciting, as you can actually try to break it down even further and get more granular.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, thank you for being a guest. It's been a brilliant episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I would like to end with a book recommendation. Tal, have you got a book that you would recommend to our listeners?
So I've got young kids. If you have young kids, I'm a big fan of Zog. It's a lovely story. I've got a daughter, and it's a lovely story about a princess and a dragon, and the princess ends up being the doctor for the dragon. Sorry to spoiler alert, but
damn it.
And it's a lovely book, and I read that a lot to my daughter.
Well, that is lovely. That is absolutely lovely. My kids are a little bit older now. I can remember sitting there reading they're sort of 17, 18 now, 17, 16. But yes, I know we'll have a lot of parents listening in, a lot of mums and dads listening in. So there we go. Zog, love it. That is the first time I think we've had a book like that. So that's bloody made my day. That's a bloody good choice. Good on you. So for the guys that want to find out more about you guys and yourself personally, what's the best way to do that?
So my name is Tal Rotman, TAL.ROTMAN at Namogoo.com, or you can just reach us at partners@Namogoo.com. And if you want to just hit up Namogoo, we're at info@Namogoo.com. Namogoo.com.
Don't forget that extra O on the end.
That's right. Namogoo.
Go. Right. It's been an absolute pleasure, Tal. I'll speak to you again.
Thank you, Richard.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the eComOne e-commerce podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please hit subscribe and don't forget to sign up to our e-commerce newsletter and leave us a review on iTunes. This podcast has been brought to you by our team here at eComOne, the e-commerce marketing agency.